Okay.
Okay, well, I clicked on the link that I added to our group chat, and it's all the houses that are on the Redland Pedestal Beach, not the ones. Oh, so I have to have them send me the link. I'm like,
Want me to turn that on when I leave?
so I think.
If I turn it off, then you want me to turn it back on?
Yeah.
Maybe for tomorrow, because there's a meeting tomorrow at 9.
Got it.
Okay.
Alright.
Turn it back
You know
on.
what I mean?
I know.
No, we're not forget.
Actually, it needs stuff in-
One thing's right then, but.
Yeah, well, Michael Collins says so tomorrow morning and it's nice in the morning.
Tomorrow. Questions?
Okay. Eventually it will end up.
Got my keys in my purse, Michael.
Yeah, this would be expanding the skill set.
Over your space.
They'll run this-
Yeah.
Big enough, but it's just putting there, if we read those big books.
Yeah, then no way.
Control.
Okay, it is 4:45 PM on Wednesday, October 25th, 2023. I'm going to call this special town board meeting to order. I'll take a roll call. Mike Anderson.
Here.
Amy Baxter.
Here.
Susan Brenna.
Here.
Samantha Dobson.
Here.
Glenn Carlson here. We also have our town clerk, our town administrator, our zoning administrator, and members of the public. The first order of business is public comment A. Does anyone have any public comments? Okay, hearing none, we'll move into the budget workshop. The first one up. So you actually moved up, Molly. You were the last one before, and now you're the first one today. How do you like that? So everyone has received your request for this coming year. Thank you for putting that together. And again, thanks to the clinic for all the good work you guys have done this last year. We really, the community very much appreciates it. So I am going to just, as we did with the other departments, go and ask if anyone has any questions or comments for you. Start with Sue.
I don't have any questions.
Amy doesn't? Samantha doesn't?
My only question, I think I asked you this last year. So, you know, you got our funding and then you get the receipts from the customers. And where's your funding come after that? Donations?
Donations, and donations are a majority for the year. I'd say 40%.
Okay, 40%. Oh,
And then credit income is probably 30. Then the town funding is probably 15 to 20.
okay. 15, 20.
90, yeah, around there. Right now we're at we're at 5,000 about in the plus for the year. Last year we ended at about negative 4,000 red. Just to give you an idea of our finances, so you know, pretty close.
Stay about zero.
Yeah. But I think this year's gonna be a little bit better than last year because we are going into our funding season at the holidays. We'll send that out. We get together tonight. We'll be sending that out hopefully in the next couple weeks. You know, clinic income, you know, Medicaid, Medicare doesn't pay a lot. And then private health insurance pays better, and then sliding scale for people without insurance. But we are paying our practitioners, doctors, so, and we are recruiting because they're both retiring, hopefully soon. And we're signing on hopefully a nurse practitioner. But then we're also gonna get, so if you're billing out for a certain rate, they then pay you less to insurance companies, so we're actually looking at about the same income, even though I'm paying that person less.
Thank
Has
you.
that person been selected?
They've agreed and they're working on their Wisconsin credentials. They haven't signed any contracts yet. But it's in there, she has started her licensing in Wisconsin. So
Great.
It's like a 6-month process. And I can't say who it is, but it's somebody who owns a house here in a summer. Who wants to live here.
It's a big end. They own a house.
That's a plus.
Great.
Yes.
Well, thank you, Molly.
Yeah.
Well, we have no other questions? No other questions? Okay, well, thank you. That's it. You're done for now. I'm sure you have something else. Okay, thank you. Okay, next we'll move into committees. The first one is the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. And I believe the request from the committee is here we go. It's right almost towards the end. And unless I'm missing something, I don't see dollar request.
There is no dollar request.
Okay,
The only request is that the money that is currently in the new fund be maintained so that they don't have regional community requests.
okay.
Just rolled over basically.
Right, but not, yeah, not still in its.
Which is kind of the goal. of trying to just start to run committees out of designated funds. Both to keep the auditor happy and to make it clear how much money each committee has and they have what to spend. That's
Okay, thank you. Any questions from anyone? When people don't ask for money, it goes a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Katie. Okay, next, Community Awards Committee, and again, it looks like they have sufficient funds to cover their $140 projected expense.
They do,
Okay,
unless they get wild on the celebration.
the cake. No, it's just got to be a sheet cake. That's all, just a sheet cake. Okay, next is the Comprehensive Plan Steering Committee. And they are asking for 10,000. Go ahead.
Obviously, the steering committee is no longer in existence. Their charter expired. Number 30. And so what this proposal is anticipating that with the adoption of the comprehensive plan, that that they still have some funds to pay out for printing and map designing and those kinds of things. So they, even though they are defunct, as a committee, they have incurred expenses. They will still need to pay out of their designated fund. And after that, they are anticipating that any remaining funds would be rolling toward the implementation of the plan. The Island Collaborative Task Force or whatever approach the town board takes. And the anticipation is that if that moves forward, that they'd be able to generate some grant revenue to help support the startup of that collaborative initiative.
Okay, great, thank you. Any questions on the comprehensive plan? Anybody? Okay, Energy Committee. Well, they're asking for a lot of money, but it looks like it's all going to be dependent on getting a grant. Or
Correct.
Not
They will
most.
know more after their next meeting on November 6th. The brief update is that they will be exploring looking at the same state energy innovation grant that they applied for last time and were not selected for, and that would be to build out microgrid that would utilize the solar power generated at the library and here and to power town hall, the library and the clinic, and potentially long-term if state regulations change, perhaps hooking the school building into that as well. And so this is essentially, when they applied last year, there was no money dedicated to them for any town expenses as part of that build out. And that was one of the things that they were graded down on because there was no evidence that the town was going to support that initiative. So this request is put in the $60,000 that they anticipate would be the gap. Although the funding, the grant particulars have not come out this year, so it's not clear what their maximum grant would be and what kind of they might require. So based on last year's application, they're asking for $60,000 and anticipate then the grant itself would cover the rest of the microgrid build out.
great, thank you. Any questions on that? That's really a placeholder.
It is a placeholder, but again, they will know, they should decide at their November 6th meeting. If they're moving forward or not, they should have more detail from the state. What this year's in the program,
Okay, great, thank you.
which is, I'm sorry, inadvertent way of saying, we should know by the time you approve budget whether they really need this.
That's perfect.
Yeah, that is-
Good timing. Next is public arts, and there's a request for $4,000. And that is for well, they've got the porta potty project is in there and would come out of existing funds, but the propeller project, I don't know if everyone read the materials on that, but that's a $3,500 project, and then a couple of smaller projects would get up to the 4,000.
So the propeller project is something that I inside.
Me too.
Okay.
So when we.
And I think, do we have people from the Public Arts Committee here? For our secretary or our clerk, would you let her know who you are?
Mary Atmore, I'm chair of the committee, and I'm Madeline Rupp.
Thank you.
So my questions are, so when that property was donated to the town, there was language within the donation document, transfer document, of keeping that area a green space. And I'm feeling like I do know that Robin was in support of the statue that was in there. I fear that, can you explain where you're thinking, because it's a great idea. I'm not pushing it down or anything. I'm concerned that we have conflicting language. So we've got a committee that the town supports and helps say yes or no to, that we're saying yes to things that go against the document that was presented when we accepted the gift.
I'm not familiar with that document, and I will tell you that this project is in the very early stages of discussion. They have 7 propellers that they want to donate and put on pedestals, and there are a variety of sizes. And they would be put around some perimeter fashion where there would still be green space, is my understanding. But it's still pretty early for me to give you specific details about where they're gonna go or how big they're gonna be. Or,
That's fair.
Did anybody talk to Robin?
pardon me.
Did anybody talk to Robin?
Robin is on our committee. So
She
we
was part of those meetings.
This is her idea.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're doing what she said.
Yeah, these are their propellers.
Right.
Well, I know that they're.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
kind of what I figured too, but then what I'm beginning to wonder is if we should request that language removed, I mean, for history's sake, if nothing else. I mean, because if people start looking at our history, they see that document, and then we've got all this stuff that, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal. You guys.
Well,
You know what I'm
we will
saying?
need to figure out what it is when the time comes, but at this point, are there any other questions about?
Good question.
Go ahead, Mike.
Do you know is it gonna be horizontal or vertical? Do you have any idea? You don't know?
The propellers.
Yeah, you said you went like this. That
Oh,
would,
I,
because I mean, it'd take up a lot of green space if it was laid out.
oh,
on the
they're
ground.
pedestals, they're beyond pedestals.
Okay.
They would be mounted on pedestals,
So this is vertical.
that's my understanding.
Have you looked into insurance,
No, we've not.
or historic preservation grants?
No grants have been, as I said, it's very, very new. But I know that Robin wants to do it and get it going for 2024.
Other questions of Public Arts?
Well, what I'm thinking about is if they're on a pedestal, and here's what you guys can think about. It's like kids, do kids have access to them? Because kids are gonna want to play on them. And that's just a kid, being a kid. When I was a kid, I played on the Warboard propeller down at the museum all the time. I mean, that's a kid. And so are we gonna be liable? I don't know, it's our land. Stuff like that is what comes to my mind.
I would like to ask our insurance agent.
Well, I mean, they'd have to find out, are they gonna be, are they gonna be accessed by people? Can people walk right up to them and play with them or do something to them, Or are they gonna be behind a chain or, something like that? I don't know.
I think one of the intentions of putting them on pedestals was to mitigate people being able to climb on them or be able to engage with them in any physically dangerous way was the hope. But we also still need to get the mock-ups of the pedestals and really kind of wrap our head around how they would be grouped together. We don't want them to take up too much space and detract from the public being able to use the green space of the park. So they probably will be arranged together in close proximity to each other, but then they should not be close enough that they look like a jungle gym. So it's a balancing act, but the intention of the pedestals was to hopefully deter people from climbing at all. Fingers crossed.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I got to back up a little bit. I got a question you have, or whoever did this proposal, this request. On the fourth paragraph, you have the committee currently has 4,500 designated fund grant money for the porta potties, which must be returned if not used, but you don't have a date. So if the porta potties don't get painted or something, you have to return that money.
We do.
And you know what the date is?
I'm not taking it off the top of my head. We want that project to be done by June of 2024.
Oh, so that's what I mean. It won't be, because it's gonna get colder. pretty
I know also that if there's a timing issue that it can't get, somebody's got a great idea and they can't get it painted in June, the grant money probably would be extended for short term.
Okay.
Those requests have been made in the past and been granted. So that's also a possibility. But the idea of that project is to be done by summer of 2024, going into.
Okay.
Thank you, Mary.
I have another.
Go ahead.
My next question is as it relates to the Public Arts Winter Festival. And in reading the notes and thoughts of the shoulder seasons and more foot traffic like that. Have you spoken to the operators of the stores you're driving foot traffic into in January and February, because a lot of them aren't even open during those. Have you had those conversations already?
Not yet, so our intention is to scale this event up over time if we get the green light. So the first iteration is just going to be those treasure hunts with medallions. And the hope is that over time, we can loop in local artists with more of a festival type atmosphere, so to build it out. At this juncture, once we chose the date for the event and then scheduled that treasure hunt around it, at that point, we would reach out to local businesses and let them know that we have this opportunity to have more people discuss during that.
So you don't think that it would be a good idea to, so local businesses that do close often leave, they do, it might be better before, to let them know in advance so that they can maybe be planning not to leave, sometimes people plan like 6-7 months in advance. Then my next question would be that event, the festival, we'll call it, is that going to also be in Russell Park?
That has not been.
I didn't think that was even on my list.
Oh, I'm just reading the whole thing. That's not.
Okay, any other questions for Public Arts Committee? No? Okay, thank you both very much. Next up is Winter Transportation Committee. And the only thing I know about that is the $10,000.
I'm following it. Talked about it last night's board meeting tonight. In concrete yet is who the third party. We know the town will contribute to that. This is that what we need.
Does anyone have any questions on that? Okay. TPC and zoning. Got Ed's narrative and the budget. Are there any questions?
Just what role do you play with the zoning now, with the numbers? Like we're doing the number thing right now. What role do you play?
Well, I can make suggestions for DPC as far as what I feel that the number should be.
You mean the street numbers?
The fire numbers.
But he's talking about the fire numbers.
Yeah.
Pretty much I've taken care of creating the database. Well, Rick started the database for the entire island. And then when I found that, I went through and renumbered a good part of the island. I'm looking with Brittany from Ashland County. Make sure that everything we've done is correct, but by the time her and I are done, we'll have an exact number of fire numbers that we need to order and know exactly what they are. I've got that database set up. We just have to go through it. Her and I are, she'll go through stuff I sent her. If she sees any mistakes or anything she has questions about, we cross reference and stuff. But yeah, I pretty much speak to everybody.
You say Brittany, is she part of the emergency management or?
GIS coordinator in Ashland County.
Okay. Any other questions?
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
Ed, what you're saying here is on your answer to if anything could change about the department, what would change? Educate landowners about ordinance. What are your thoughts of the good ways to do that?
Well, basically all I can do right now is when I see that there's violations, send out friendly letters. But and maybe in simplifying some of the wording in the ordinance so that it's easier for people to understand. But,
Okay. I was just curious.
And that's, we're working on that. We meet every Tuesday and, go through different sections and the zoning ordinance itself will probably, it might be about spring to get a draft together. We'll hope to have something this spring.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other?
Have there been a lot of blowback on the fee changes?
I've not heard anything.
Nice.
Because they haven't been taken effect yet.
Right.
But they were in my minutes from anybody reached out to see what the changes.
Ed, what is the rationale for the May 14th deadline for getting in your?
That's what's always been. I don't know where that came from, but it's what was there.
Okay. It's nothing magic about that.
No, and that's, that's the renewal date. So no letters in January, everybody know what the fees are, the renewal date. If they don't rent until they pay, it could be June, but we keep the database up, and everybody pays before they start renting, set it up. If they're not paid by the May 14th, we send out a letter saying that on May 14th. Like I said, that was the date that was there before.
May is popular to get, well, that's when things start rolling,
Yeah.
ready for
It should
action.
give them time to get, because June probably is starting to rental.
Yeah.
I've heard, I have heard some comment about that we have this deadline prior to the time that people might actually have rented and have income coming in. Is that a reasonable concern?
It is.
So potentially putting it off a couple of weeks to like, May 31st or something. There's nothing magic about the 14th.
There's nothing magic about that date.
Okay, great. Thank you. Any other?
I would point out, however, if I'm understanding that it's subjective. The ordinance currently states that people can't rent without a permit. So if they were beginning to rent their units to collect money so they could pay for a permit, they would be in violation and they would actually be subjecting themselves to double permit fees and perhaps fines.
Yeah, so understand. Okay. Any other questions for zoning TPC? Okay, thank you, Ed.
Thank you.
Well, you go ahead.
Down payments on your rental though. Those don't count as renting it. It's only when the person gets in there.
Correct.
So they should have money coming in.
Yeah,
They
because
should have,
everybody
yeah.
puts a deposit.
If somebody books 3 weeks in advance and gives their down payment, they can take that down payment and pay their fees and they're still getting fines.
Do they need to have had their license to take the deposit?
In the ordinance.
No, okay. Okay, all right, okay, got it, okay. Any other? No, okay, thank you again, Ed. I think you can actually leave this time.
Sorry.
Wait, one more question.
Moving on to general government. Any questions or comments on that? And who wants to start? Mike, you want to start?
Wow.
You get one at a time.
Yeah. For who filled this out? You?
Correct.
Okay, on the first one, goals for the next 3 years. And then you have managing the ongoing period of transition such as staffing, job structures, town responsibilities in areas such as Ferry Lane housing. So what do you think is your position as far as the transition of the Ferry Lane into the town?
It's yet to be determined. I mean, there's a lot of unanswered questions as far as the transition of dock management, for example, from the town to the harbor commission. There's a lot of unanswered questions about the transition of when the town takes over management of the ferry line, and if and when ferry operation employees become town employees, what the reporting structures are in that. So those are the two most obvious, to say nothing about simply the policy issues of ferry operations, ferry hours, revenue from the ferry, and how that flows to or from.
So it's just like play it by ear, see what happens.
Well, we don't really have a choice.
Right.
I think I have tried to outline for the Harbor Commission, especially in the concerns I've raised about the operating agreement, reflecting what I believe will be the impact of the town, or where the town will need to have more of a say, as opposed to the independence that the Harbor Commission can operate in a lot of other ways. So we have to play it by ear. I mean, this whole, last week when Pete and Michael were here, I mean, they're giving you an outline of a budget. Nobody really knows what that's going to look like. They kind of know sandcastle version. So I think we all have to play it by ear and try to be as flexible as we can. Certainly the town board is committed to trying to make this happen with the investment of funds from town budgets and those kind of things, the investment of people into their efforts. So we just have to play it by ear, and whatever my role needs to be or needs not to be, I will try to make sure that happens.
Sam?
I don't have one right now.
Okay.
I'm looking at the bottom of the first page, it says other general government, and it went up significantly. And I went to the page 9 where it was, and it looks like things that we would always spend money on. So did things move from one section to another?
Without going through the spreadsheets, I'm thinking, part of what is in this budget, for example, is we moved, so this community clinic is a separate line item. So bear with me, let me find that page.
Yeah, it just looks like something we always spend money on, but what we spent last year was 24,
Uh,
So you're looking at
6,000.
7 and whatever.
yeah, that's the budget request. So so we spent, it looks like in 2022, we spent 26,000 on that, and then
Right. And then it went
2023
down.
went down to 6,000. So that's a good question.
I just don't get it. Because it looks like all things that we always buy.
Got it. So as far as what the
Correct.
20,
These are relatively routine expenditures, so.
oh, I know what's in there. Is that the, no, that's not that's capital.
So why the difference between the budget and 7,000 last year?
Yeah.
I don't have any meeting. I'll try to get you one, but it's not going to be spent.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you. Any other? Sue?
I'm still on the first page.
Okay, hold on, Sue.
So, and this might be kind of a silly question, but when you were talking about working with other governments, you're talking about like not governments, but other pieces. Are you talking about like working more with like the state government?
Where
So,
are we?
It's in his very first line. It says in the extent and areas of collaboration with other levels of government. And so I was just curious, is that like?
So in general, what I mean by that is we don't know what our relationship with Ashland County is going to turn out to be as a result of
I see.
our law enforcement. So that's one area where we may need to be flexible, but that doesn't change the fact that we work very well with Ashland County's Highway Department. As Ed just pointed out, we work very well with their zoning folks, their land use folks. You know, we worked unofficially with Bayfield County on things because there are regional
Okay.
issues that.
That
of course,
answers my
so
question.
we got the school district, which is trying to figure out what it's gonna do with its infrastructure and how that would affect the Island School building, as well as just the access for education for island children and other children in the school district, depending on what that turns out to be. So
So we're just basically
you
talking
know,
about
it's-
counties.
I guess in general, what I would say is that my approach is that even though we are in a somewhat bitter fight with Ashland County over certain things, we are still trying to be cooperative with other levels of Ashland County or other levels of government and other jurisdictions,
Very,
to be regional partners.
thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mike.
Back to page 1. Okay, on the bottom of page 1, you have, the question is, what additional alternative funding sources do you consider? And you have on the first paragraph, a bunch of things, and you have landing fee on ferry passengers. And do we ever think about a wheel tax? Is that the same as a wheel tax?
It is not the same as a wheel tax. I do not know that a town has the ability to apply a wheel tax.
What's, I mean,
The landing fee essentially would be every passenger, I mean, we'd have to work this out, but the principle would be every passenger who steps foot on the dock from the ferry line essentially pays $1 for the privilege of coming to the island to help support the infrastructure and staffing and maintenance and law enforcement and first responder costs that this town incurs right now and essentially has no way of recouping from the tourists. So a lot of these initiatives are to make sure that the property taxpayer is not bearing the entire burden of servicing tourists here, but to find ways so that the town itself, the town government, the town departments can collect some revenue from tourists in the way that other organizations and businesses do. And right now, the town really doesn't do that.
No. So if there's 4 people in a car, those 4 passengers would be counted just as people, not what I think of like a walk-on.
In previous conversations, we've called it a head tax, not a landing fee.
But like workers and stuff,
So in
So it would
budget,
Yes, per person.
yeah, I'm calling it a passenger fee. But Amy, you're correct. I mean, most people refer to it as a head tax. My understanding of the law is that we would have to charge it on everybody. And in this budget proposal, I penciled in $150,000 revenue. My understanding is that there are more passengers on the ferry than 150,000, but until we can verify what the passenger volume is on the ferry line, and we've also heard there's a large desire on the part of residents here to, if the town takes control, to make the ferry operation more affordable for residents who use the ferry, or for workers who use the ferry. So my anticipation, let's say the ferry actually has 250,000 people and we collect 250. I'm putting in 150 with the belief that somewhere along the line, we would redirect some of that revenue to reduce, frequent floater fares for the people who use it routinely. That's the general outline in my thinking. Obviously, this is it's a policy concept it's not really been discussed in detail, but it's there to start discussion of something else. Now that we have the legal ability to do this, we can do it actually with the Harbor Commission in place.
so you've checked into it, we can't do a wheel tax?
I have not, but state statute is extremely restrictive on how towns can raise money. And I do not believe a wheel tax is among the authorized ways of raising money for a town. I certainly can look into that, but I don't believe towns have that authority.
I mean, the way I think of it is cars coming across wreck the roads. or use the roads, people walking, you know, we don't even have sidewalks for people. And then if you're coming from the south side of Main Street,
I also believe a wheel tax applies to where a vehicle registered.
there's a lot to it, and I don't even know if we can do it, but that's what I was just curious.
Unless we're gonna put a toll booth up. That would be the best.
Thought about that too.
Mhm.
Anyway, to raise money.
Model vehicle system.
Sam? Amy?
But our mag cards could go down $1 per trip, even if the rate went up $1 per head by state law.
That will be up to the, whoever, that would be up to the Harbor Commission.
Right, but I mean, it would help fix my.
Look at me.
Much to be discussed when it comes to the ferry.
Yeah,
Sue?
So again, on the first page, the second to the last bullet point. I like that plan, creating and promoting opportunities for year-rounders, seasonals, and other community members. What has been done so far, like in this past year? Because it says continue creating.
So I think there, first of all, this screen is one way of
Okay.
accomplishing that. So we paid for that this past year,
Right,
and it has enabled us to have other people attend informational workshops, actual meetings. It certainly helps with committees in which the membership is allowed.
Perfect.
People who are not electors here, for example. So those are some of the immediate ones. I think if the comp plan is adopted and the town board sets up the task force to create the Island Collaborative, and we will see the opportunities for seasonal, occasional, whatever, to explode exponentially. If they want to be involved, there will be plenty of opportunities and areas for them to be involved in, and this technology in particular allows us to have productive meetings, have productive informational sessions, workshops, whatever, to break that wall down.
okay, thank you.
on to page, the worksheet on page 2, top line. For the town board, I'm not gonna go into all the math, but it's not right. The only thing that's right about that is the estimated, in the bold markings, they estimated for the rest of the year, you have 30, or somebody has 31,500, that's right. The other numbers aren't right, because we all know what we make.
And you're doing the rates.
The top line of the first page,
Yeah, he's talking
Not
about
until
the,
we're reelected.
yeah,
Well, but some of you raise.
are already in 23.
yeah, you're talking of not at the, he's not at the final column.
No,
You're
I'm
in the
not,
middle
I'm not
column.
I'm talking about this year.
He's talking about the
Remainder.
2023 total and year to date plus estimated. The
Not top.
21,200 is not right. Because it's like 27 or 28,000 is
Yeah,
how
and I'm
much it
just-
should be.
It's wrong. I mean, the math, I did the math all afternoon, and no matter how you,
Yeah.
even if you count the $40 for the board of review, the board of supervisors, there's 4 of us.
That column is clearly just the 2 previous columns added together, so.
Yeah, something's wrong. with
Something's
this.
it's not right, that's all.
I will acknowledge that there are plenty of formula.
You may have found one, Mike.
I found one, yeah. Didn't take long, first line.
Okay. I'm just gonna go back and forth to Sue and Mike because unless Amy and,
Oh, well, I
Samantha.
had one more.
okay, go ahead, Amy.
On the computers, it says they're past their recommended replacement and they're about to end their lifespan, but is anybody complaining that they don't work?
If you're increasing the slope.
Okay,
The most urgent thing is to improve network.
great.
Our technology person is definitely concerned with the network equipment itself is getting old, therefore it's more vulnerable to hacking.
But if we did that, Do we think that the computers would be better?
That's not anywhere near my level of expertise.
Okay.
I just know that there are days it takes us 15 minutes to boot up in the morning.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's not a sign of a healthy machine.
Right. Right, okay.
Although I'm not a PC guy, so.
I do have another question.
Go ahead.
So on the accommodation taxes for the 2024 proposed budget, I'm assuming that's not including the suggested 8% increase.
No, it is.
It
Well,
is.
it's the increase to 8%.
It is including that.
Correct.
Okay.
Mike?
Okay, under personnel wages, that's about not quite halfway down.
Okay.
And then you're gonna be under 17,710. Is that from Barb leaving? You think?
Probably between Barb leaving and positions being open for a while, those kinds of things.
I'm good.
You good?
I think I'm good now. too.
Okay, my turn. Mike, you have,
Well, you probably have the same questions I have.
I've got a few. Okay, on the, on page 1 of the, and also, when we get our next round, I assume we're gonna get a whole new, like, everything's gonna be reprinted, is that right or not? Okay. And I don't know if that's for this year, if that works, great. But if we could have someone go through before they make all the copies and just number the pages from 1 to 200, whatever they are, just straight through, so we can say, okay, on page 182. Just hand, go and hand number them. Because otherwise I'm like, so, there are a lot of page 1s in here. Even within a divider, even within a single, so that's, unless I'm the only one who has an issue with that.
That,
Coded, but they're.
that's done. Are you guys using, what are you using for documents to make documents? Is it
Oh, they-
Microsoft or? Because that can just be done like that. Page number.
This is not one document.
We can do that like that on each individual tab within the spreadsheet.
Not the whole.
I'm not sure we can do that when we pull out specific tabs.
Oh.
Print them independently of each other.
But it would take 20 minutes for someone to
Yeah.
go through and go
It would
1,
take
2, 3,
long.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, before they make all the copies. In the lower right-hand corner, something where everyone can see it and
Then
get to it.
No pun intended, but then we'd all be able to be on the same page. Yeah. 'Cause
Exactly.
I'm doing a lot of what page?
Yeah, yes. Anyhow, so that, but on page 1, where it's the first thing is town board wages, town board chair, $650 a month. Then the next line, 3 town board supervisors at $400 a month. That should be 2 town board supervisors at $400 a month. Because we only have a total of 5 town board members, not 6. Otherwise, they're counting me twice. They're counting me as a supervisor and as town chair.
All right, gotcha.
Okay. Mike,
That well, that was like, knew that was coming up. I'm good.
okay. I see we have 34 Office 365 licenses. I had an awful hard time coming up with where we would have 34 people with Office on their computers.
Well, we also require that for anybody who's got a town email account. Like, for example, every harbor commission member. So that's 7 licenses right there.
So we have to get a license just for someone to have a town email account.
Correct.
Holy crow.
So there are, then there are department heads that have,
Yeah, I understand the department heads.
well, I mean, like even volunteer services people.
So that's $300 per person for them having a town email account.
Right.
Wow, okay. The town administrator's salary has not gone up by the 5.4% cost of living.
Correct.
So that should also go up by 5.4%. That was the intent.
Not yearly.
I haven't heard, department heads have not heard if what the town board's preference is on cost of living increases. So we plugged in a 5.4, which was simply the most recent figure we had received from the state.
Right, you plug that in for everyone except the town administrator.
Almost every.
Yeah.
Some people got merit raises as well.
Yeah, yeah.
And there are a few people who have other kinds of adjustments. But there has not been a cost of living increase into the town administrator's salary.
Okay. Well, I think that was when we did the 5% merit. It was that merit and that it was. So whatever percent we end up with, I mean, at this point, we're using 5.4 because that's the state's. That's what they're using for all their calculations for cost of living. But I think whatever we come up with for the employees, the town administrator should be included in that. And I did notice, yes, some people have gotten a little bit more than that, or significantly more than that. But okay. Next round, if we could put that in there, that would be great. Has there been any change made in here, or is there any change allowed to be made to the employee share of health insurance?
That would be change in policy, personnel policy.
Okay. So
there is no change in share. Correct.
okay. But
The town makes a flat. If I understand this correctly. The town contributes a percentage of the lowest cost plan for which we are eligible. So then that becomes a flat dollar amount that is contributed, either single coverage or family coverage, for every employee who takes health insurance.
okay. And so that percentage applies to whatever the premium happens to be for that given year.
Correct.
Okay, thanks. Mike, do you have another?
I'm on the worksheet. You're reading off your own.
Yeah,
On the worksheet, again, Michael, on the bottom, well, 4 up from the bottom, you have insurance and bonds, and then the actual was 46,608. And the total so far is 46,608. So it comes out even, exactly what we budgeted, but it's over by 18,423. So I don't quite understand that.
Because the budget was for 28,185. So the budget is the second to the right column.
Oh, okay. Okay. Got it. So it's a lot more than what we budgeted.
okay. I know it's not a ton of money, but we've got $9,400 in for Miffle Swipe, which is like 4 trips a week with a car. Is that, we really, town hall does 4 trips a week, 9,425.
I know what you're referring to. Yeah, I'll have a look.
Okay. Mike or Sue?
No, go ahead.
I do have another.
Go ahead, Sue.
So under computer website stuff, I'm just curious. The texting for 2040 and it's 48,000 at block. Is that sufficient? I mean, are we able to text everything that we want or need to text at that amount? Or I mean, like, is that enough Texas?
I believe this reflects the most recent year's usage. We have to buy these in packages of 5,000 or something.
Right,
So we have one annual subscription. And lower with by bulk packages. And so we had to buy a couple of bulk packages in the past year. So I believe this budget reflects our actual usage over the past year, where we've done more than alert people of road closures, but have alerted them about hearings, meetings, and just general information.
but the question is, do you believe that even that amount is enough?
Well, I think it's, well, all right. We could always have more because we can always let people know about more things.
Okay,
I think we are looking for a balance. For example, we don't notify people of every town board meeting.
right,
In theory, we could do that. For people who say, I don't know what's going on, we could let them know that it's going on, and then they could attend or not attend. We don't. We could, if we wanted to step up the type of things that we communicate with residents and non-residents, we could do that. I think we are looking for a balance right now. It has traditionally been simply emergencies and road closures and that kind of thing, some of which you can't predict the volume of.
okay,
But we have increased kind of the notification on civic events, if you will. We've notified people when surveys were available, those kinds of things. So I think we're trying to find a balance of where that might be. So yes, this is higher than in past years, but
which I think is still kind of lowish. That's why I was
It
asking.
also forces us to think what's worth promoting and what's not worth promoting, and making sure that we don't overdo it. I mean, the reality is, every time the MRF closes, you could put out something every day because people always show up and say they never saw it. So
That's right.
there are certain things you can never publicize enough.
I think the town does a good job myself.
So
I do too, but I was just thinking there might be more we could do, because we did pay a lot for this Zoom. And I know people are watching on Facebook, but I would love to see the time when we could send out this, and I know they can get it on the website, but it'd be fun to have people, if they wanted to, do public comment to us and that kind of thing.
Okay, thank you, Sue. Mike?
Back to the worksheet. And so we didn't budget anything for auditors in 23. And then we spent $16,000. So that's speaks for itself. And then you have 66,300 for 24. So that would be,
right. So what you're looking at is the 66,000 CPA that we contracted with
for 24,
to understand our duties
24.
in 24.
Right.
So that need did not exist a year ago.
Right. So what I'm saying is, so we spent $16,000 in 23 that we didn't budget for, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, okay, that was my question. We spent $16,000 on auditors that we didn't.
No, it's not on
We didn't
auditors.
get a.
Well, it's under,
It's on accounting. This is different than our auditors, Mike.
oh,
I'm contract with,
auditors right above it. I'm
Yeah.
on the radar.
and they are related, but
Yeah, they are. But yeah, this
contract will help us stay in the good graces of the auditor. We hope.
yeah, this is the firm different from our audit firm
Yeah.
that is doing the work, some of the work that Barb did.
Yep.
Okay. Anyone else?
And just like to just close the circle, so that 66,000 that we budgeted, that's the maximum allowed under the contract for 2024. As we get more familiar with Workhorse and more familiar with the workflow, we may not need that much. I mean, there are certain things that the CPA is doing that we could probably do in-house.
Got it.
That's wonderful news.
That is,
Trying to save money.
Yes. Okay, Sue?
I'm good.
Amy? Samantha? Mike?
We could be here all night if I, go ahead.
No, I am done with mine. I have I have used up all my words. It's for tonight.
Um.
Okay. So thank you. And so tomorrow night, we are doing a review of the fees. But we're also going to be, this is what I think of as kind of our markup, which is be prepared to talk about the things that you would cut and the things that you would absolutely not cut. Okay, like just as one example of we're going to be talking about, do we fund for 5 days a week of local police coverage or 7 days a week? Okay. Now, for someone that might be a let's cut, and someone else that might be a let's protect the 7 days. Okay, so tomorrow is that day. We're going to go through every department. So if you could be prepared as possible, it just we'll go department by department, starting with roads, and just like as we did, giving Michael guidance, mostly on big amounts, right? He's gonna have plenty of pencils to
And erasers.
to deal with the smaller things, unless they're things like, we only have 5 members of the town board, not 6, so if we can be ready for that, then we all get next week off, except for Michael and Alex and department heads.
Oh, so then
Okay, so then, what's that?
I like that.
Yeah, and
No, I mean, because it gives us some time.
so that, well, it
Gives
gives us,
them time.
it gives them time to take all of what we've said, go back to the department heads, say, okay, the board has said X. We've run the numbers, we haven't run the numbers, we know that you're gonna need to cut some more out of your budget, and Michael will give them guidance on, how much we think. They'll come back to us the following week, whatever.
7th and 9th.
7th, so a Tuesday and a Thursday.
Correct.
So before that Tuesday, hopefully by maybe like that Friday or Monday, we'll get a new round of these with those changes in them, with the new numbers. That might be also a time when, if there are people, department heads, who want to plead their case for, what cuts they've seen that they don't think are, doable. You can come and talk to us then. We will either vote that night, then on the final, what we're gonna go with, or the next, the 9th. Does that make sense for everyone?
I do have a question. The meeting that we're having tomorrow, we're looking at cuts and things like that. That would also be where you would want us to maybe, because there's some things in this year's budget that potentially could be pushed a year or two. Would you want those comments tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the deferrals.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Michael, does that give you guidance? Is that
Absolutely.
sort of consistent with what we've done at least last year? Pretty close. Amy?
So with the mistakes that are like this doubled 143
Mhm.
and a couple other things that you pointed out, what are we trying to cut? What's the difference with those
Oh, with the,
corrections
Ooh.
made? Just about.
I guess, I mean, if we took out that I know of, right, and I'm thinking the reserve for the loan, okay? And if you take out the double on that, so
Yeah.
that's like 290. And then take out, I'm gonna say 100 on the gravel, so that's 390. Let's call it 400, but we can chop. There probably is maybe another 100, maybe, I don't know. That's probably, but so 500. And we know that we were about a million 1.
Yeah.
So we're still about 600 short.
Okay.
Now, you know, some of that 600 could be things that are, you know, capital in nature that we could justify borrowing money to buy if we feel like they're really critical to have. And then we're not paying for it all at once. And so then you know, right now, the capital budget assumes that all these capital items we're paying for like all at once. So that's kind of where we are. So it's a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a lot.
Okay.
And I would encourage everyone, if you have time, to look this on Monday, Bayfield School District adopted their budget for 24, and Ashland County also published. They didn't vote on it yet, but they published their budget. So if you have time, look it up and see what we're up against, you know, or what people who pay taxes are up against. Because it's not just us, it's every, you know, the people are in there too.
Yeah, and the other thing too for tomorrow, you know, one thing for us to talk about is if we do say, let's do 24/7 police coverage, then the other question would be, okay, are we going to increase the tax levy for the amount by which that is above and beyond the 5 day a week we've been doing? So a lot of things to think about.
I would also say, given some of the revenue increases that are proposed in here,
Mhm.
to discuss whether you want to proceed this.
Yeah,
Or whether you think the projections are accurate. Because obviously that's the other side. Some of this is buttressed by revenue increases that are not on the property tax.
exactly. And although I don't see the opportunities that I've seen in the past, yes, feel free if you see opportunities to increase revenue beyond what has been proposed. I think Michael squeezed pretty much every last drop out of things at this point, but so
Maybe you missed something.
he may have missed something. He may have missed something. You know, we could charge for the restrooms. All right.
In France, I heard.
Yes.
Pay
Yes.
dumpsters at the dump.
There you go.
Jump park.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, next item is public comment B. Do we have any?
I have a public comment.
Go ahead.
Let's think about getting Alex a monitor instead of breaking her neck trying to look at that. That's stupid to sit there and have to turn around every time. Or anybody sitting there has to, if you want to look at somebody talking up there or something, you got to turn around and look every time. I think it's stupid. I mean, monitors don't cost a lot.
Or we could set up a little table.
Or a table, I don't care. I'm just, my
I
neck
I
hurts
might
looking
even
at.
have one at home that I could bring in. I might have a monitor at home.
I mean, just so you don't have to turn around and
Right.
try to run the
Yes,
mouse.
yeah.
But that's gotta be a pain in the neck.
Thank you. Any other
Still
public
to be
comment?
able to do that backwards stuff.
Right?
Yeah, practice.
Working on it.
It's not quite yoga.
Yep.
We adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Hi.
Aye. Opposed?